Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I am filming my March wrap up where I ended up reading 76 books. I honestly don't know what happened. It's the most I read ever in a month. Like, I don't usually read over 70 books in a month. The most I read before that was like 49. So I don't know. The leap. I did 2 manga nights. I did this challenge thing where I read loads. I listened to more audiobooks than usual. It just added up like this. And we are gonna literally be here for like 2 hours. So bear with me. I feel like I barely make through the normal wrap up. So this is gonna be intense. But there is some like seriousness and stuff I'm gonna together. And I'm not gonna promise anything thorough. But at least you're gonna get a quick run through of all the books I read and I rating. So, without further ado, let's get started. First book I read for the month was Lost Kingdom by Laura Black. This was sent to me by the author and is a fantasy indie published book. I follow a main character who doesn't have any memories of her life and she has been enslaved and then she gets saved and then they're looking for this stone. And then there's a dude main character that's also looking for this and then they need to collaborate and go out on this journey. I have a full review on my channel, we'll link it down below, but I did enjoy it actually. I did enjoy it for what it was. I think it was cute and fun and like I was fascinated by the world, etc. I thought the characters were really well rounded and I did end up enjoying them a lot. So I had a good time with this. I think I rated it up to 4, like 3.5. I would continue and I'm grateful for the author for sending this to me. I'm 98% sure that this was all the One Piece I read, but if I'm incorrect, we will find out when the piles are less. So I read a lot of One Piece this month because I was trying to catch up on where I'm behind for where I'm supposed to be on the imaginary list that I made for myself and no one else. So I read 4 omnibuses for One Piece, which do only count as 1 book, like of the 76 books. Not 1 book, all of these, but 4 books. Not 12, which is how many volumes I read. I managed to read 4 in a month, which is, I think, my record. I enjoyed myself a lot. I read all of Skypiea. The vlogs for these are coming at a point. And I started Order 7. Love One Piece immensely. It follows Luffy, who wants to be the king of the pirates. And we go on this grand journey with his crew. And I had the greatest time with these. I'm just proud of myself managing to read all of these in 1 month. Because they take a lot of time because of the vlogs. And I need to really sit down and like sit there for like 3 hours. While I usually like read here and there throughout the day before I finish my goal. Absolutely love them. And I'm very excited to continue. I probably need to read at least like 3 volumes or 4 in April to catch up completely. There's a lot of manga here like at once. I think I had a manga night the 2nd of April, the 2nd of March. I read Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, volume 3, finishing up this first arc of Jojo, which basically is these 2 dudes that are fighting because they hate each other. I don't even know how to describe it. It's super weird. It's super bizarre. I am enjoying it. But I'm also like, what is going on? Because I honestly don't know. But it is an enjoyable series. And in here, someone made a knife out of the fluids of someone's eyes. And we had a floating head. So, great times. I think I only read 1 volume of Bungo Stray Dogs, volume 17. But I think I will read loads more now in this month. Now in April. Bungo Stray Dogs follows this armed detective agency that does these investigations that have powers. And I love it a lot. I don't understand anything of this arc. But let's go. Demon Slayer volume 22. That means I have 1 volume left, which I don't even know will be read in April or not. It depends if we do manga nights, etc. But Sanrio, whose whole family was killed by demons, except his sister was turned into one and is trying to find a cure by going out to get closer to them by killing them. And we go on different adventures. And I'm scared for the last volume, but also excited to see how it ends. Yo by Junji Ito. This is probably my favorite since after Uzumaki, which apparently nothing can ever beat. This one has to do with like fish monster creatures coming out of the sea and taking over. It was really, really weird and bizarre, but it is in the style that I want. I felt creeped out by it and I felt like a phobia I have being a bit triggered, which is like obviously not a good thing. Don't trigger phobias on purpose, but like then you feel the uncomfortableness you want to feel from a horror. So that's why I was like, okay, this is good, if you know what I mean. Okay, Aegis Mangus Bride, volume 5 by Koya Masaki. This one is now a reread. I think I have 1 more is a reread and then I will actually continue like with the series. And it follows this girl named Chise, who is sold to this dude, which sounds very bad. but then she learns about magic and learns about herself and started loving herself again. And has like these cute moments, but the overarching story is a bit weird. Combining Chainsaw Man Volume 7 and my actually like last read for the whole month was Chainsaw Man Volume 8, but taking them together here because time. So Chainsaw Man follows Denji, who can turn his arms and head into a chainsaw, and then he finds these demons and he works for this kind of not agency, but the government. So they're fighting. This Volume 8 I just read was so weird. Loved it. And Volume 7 was really fun. The Volume 7 was not as weird as Volume 8. So I was just reading this and feeling like, oh my god, I finally understand what's going on. And then I read this yesterday and I was like, I have no idea what is happening right now. But I guess that's the vibes and we're here for it. Then I read The Thief by Megan Whelan Turner. This one was my first read for To Buy, a new vlog series where I decide if I want to buy the book or not. And this, I was deciding if I wanted the fair loose set. So this follows a thief that is hired to steal this artifact so that this king's claim will be stronger. And we go on this journey. And I did like it. I thought it was fascinating. It was a bit weird. And then there was this cool plot twist thing that I enjoyed. But overall, I thought I would absolutely love it. And now that I have more time to think about it, I thought it was just okay. Like, I liked it a lot, but like, it wasn't anything that blew my mind. And I gave it maybe a 3.5, rounding it up to 4. And I did not end up buying the set. But I always wanted to read it for a long time. And now I pushed myself to actually do it. So I had a good time overall. Next book I read for that was Princess of Souls by Alexander Christio. This is kind of the sequel to Kill a Kingdom. While that was a Little Mermaid retelling, this is a Rapunzel retelling. And we follow a girl that is saved by this dude, but they actually want to kill her whole family, and she has like siren powers, not siren powers. She can see the future, and then she sees when she dies. And this book was just not at all for me. I feel like I aged too much to read this book because it doesn't actually have anything in it that is surprising or gives me anything. But I can see lots of people enjoy it. If I was a bit younger, if I read a bit less, maybe I would have liked it more. But now, absolutely not for me. I have aged away from this, which is fine to admit. I think I gave it like a 3, maybe. Komi Can Communicate by Tomohito Oda, Volume 6, which follows Komi, who has severe social anxiety and then she can't speak to anyone but is starting to get friends. Her goal is to get 100 friends, and we are slowly counting down to when she will get them, and there's just many different scenes of her socializing and growing and also just being adorable, and then they just think with this dude. I love it so much. It is so good. I don't know how it manages to carry the story because I know it's like 30 volumes out so long, but I can definitely see it because it honestly just has this moment that just makes it so wholesome as it is. But yeah, very enjoyable. Then you had me trying to catch up on where I'm supposed to be with my omnibuses. I read Hellsing Volume 2, Omnibus Volume 2, and Omnibus Volume 3, which means I read all of Hellsing. I have already posted a vlog for the first one, which I read last month, and then the vlogs for both of these is coming now in April. Hellsing follows this vampire that works for a woman named Hellsing, or the Hellsing family, and they need to fight these people that is just creating havoc and badness. Okay, these people, it was like Nazis. And there's other evil people. And Alucard, which is the vampire we follow, is so powerful, and it was really, really fun story overall. I ended up liking these much more than I thought I would after reading the first one, and it was overall a really good story. It was a short little omnibus series that I very much enjoyed, and I finished it, so I'm happy about that. Then I read Empire of Silence by Christopher Riccio. This is the first book in the Sun Asia series. It follows this dude that has like this great, I was gonna say, story of his life. Like, he's talking that he's done all these things, a bit like Name of the Wind. And then we go back in time and like follow him from the beginning of how in every step of the way we're gonna end up at that point. I did like it a lot. I thought it was really well written. I thought we were really fascinated by this person's life. But I also do think that going into every single detail and then things maybe not matter as much later as you think can be a bit exhaustive for me. But I'm still really, really enjoying it. But I was unsure like if I could love it unless I read more of the series. It's very, very slow paced. And like, let's say the font was tiny. Like, it takes ages to read. But it's still super enjoyable. But at the same time, when I think about like what happened, I feel like it wasn't much plot and much exploring considering how long the book was. And it's like, I think already like 8 or 9 books. I'm like, how long is this going to take? But at the same time, I feel like I can enjoy it and finish the series and then be like gasping in the end. So I feel like it can still grip me and be a favorite, but not from the first book. But I still did end up giving it a 4, but now I feel like it's more like 3.5. Then I read Udyr by Ingvild Bjerkeland. This was a short Norwegian children's book that is kinda actually dystopia, because we had this monster that going around basically killing everyone, and then we have these 2 children that needs to survive. It was very, very gripping. They manages to throw punch in like the 90 pages there was. I read it for a vlog that is coming like in 100 years, but I really, really enjoyed it actually. I felt like it was very gripping. I would want more. It was actually kind of scary in a way that like, is children gonna read this? Because I would be scared. And there was a lot of subtleness to like much more horror that is more, you kind of see the front because we follow these children, but as adults I can see more terrible things happening. But yeah, I honestly thought it was very solid for what it was. And yeah, children's book can be truly very, very good sometimes. And I know that sounds like I underestimate them, but I do feel like I am. But this one proved me otherwise. I give it a strong 4. Then I read Bride by Ali Hazelwood, which is a story where a vampire and a werewolf needs to get married for convenience, and then they might fall for each other. It was definitely so much more fun than I thought it would be. I had like the best enjoyment of this. I love the main characters. I love them slowly getting to know each other and trust each other. I just loved all the vibes. While like obviously it is a bit silly. Like silly in a way that like lol. But it was just so much fun. My enjoyment was so high. I ended up almost giving it a 5-star, but I felt like I can't give it a 5-star because it's like, I feel like it's not a 5-star book, but it was a 5-star read for me, so then I should totally just given it a 5-star. But yeah, I was absolutely surprised of how much I liked this, because I didn't love the love hypothesis, but apparently when we have vampires and werewolves involved, it gets even weirder, and therefore I enjoy it more. I don't know what that says about me, but we don't need to think about that. Then I read Hat Atelier Volume 3, which now I felt like I came so far into this series already, but that's just me. Follows this girl that finds out how to do magic. She becomes a witch apprentice, and then we follow her journey through this with different magical things happening, and then her quest to save her mother that has turned into, is it stone or ice? Stone or ice? I don't remember right now. But it's a very cute story, but I know darkness is looming, to say it like that. I finished another Booktuber's favorite books. So I read Into Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This one is from Mel's favorite, as well as another one here, and the vlog is already up on my channel, so you should check it out. This one is set 7 years after this other ship has fallen down, with like proof in the video that like these kind of creature-like things that looks like mermaids attack them. But no one believes that those footage is real, and then we follow, among other characters, the sister of one of the people that died on this ship. And she 100% believes it's real and has been trying to investigate what happened for a long time. And then we go on another voyage to the same place that this happened, and things might just go wrong there as well. And the suspense in this was incredible. It was incredibly written. The language was so good. You keep yourself on the toes of what is really going on. It feels like a movie in a way, like, you know, you build up to like the horror of the story. And it was honestly done like so incredibly well. I had the best time reading this. I felt like the ending was a bit rushed, and that ruined a bit of the enjoyment for me, but overall just like the build-up was incredible. Give it a very strong 4 out of 5 stars. Then I finished the first audio for the month, apparently, which was Inheritance, or Alven. I have the Norwegian edition by Christopher Paolini. I'm rereading this to read Murtagh, and I will actually maybe get to this reread, I would say end of April. I might actually finish it, depending on how much I listen to audiobook, because I need to listen to something else first. The first time I read this, I didn't love this as much, because I have read it before, like when it initially was released. But now I just could appreciate it so much more, because I read all of them in order, you know. I've been rereading since January and reading them like very close together, and it just gives a different experience and a perspective. And I felt like I was very annoyed at certain things happening in the last time I read it, but now I was like, I really enjoyed it. I'm getting goosebumps, because I felt like all the things that annoyed me, I appreciate it much more now. I can see what the author was doing. I can see this world really vividly. And I know a lot of people might not like the series, because they can be very like in detail of stuff that maybe not people enjoy, but I just like the way that that series is written. I apparently just really like it. It just works really well for me for what it does, but I can see all the things that works for me in this cannot work for someone else. But it was still super enjoyable. I gave it like 4 out of 5 stars. I'm very excited now with the last 2 books that are out, and I cannot wait for the author to write more. I'm happy, okay? I'm happy that I liked it so much more this time than like when I was waiting for the last book and I was like, I got it and I was like, what is this? Now I see it, okay? I see it. Then I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I read this because of the hype, and I wish I just hadn't. This was this girl that manages under this trial, and she has a thing with this princess, and she is like, in this world, everyone has magic. Everyone that does not have magic needs to... So she does not have magic and never has. That's why she's powerless. And then she's pretending she has this ability, and then, you know, she's in this trial, so it will be discovered. I just couldn't explain this book really well. And it just didn't have anything original. It didn't have anything to grip onto. It didn't have anything to give. It was very dramatic, but I honestly was sitting there like, what am I reading right now? Like, just the characters felt so lackluster. The writing wasn't even that good. The plot, I was just like snoozing my way through the whole thing. And it was like pain. It was physical pain to read this. And I really wish I just never did. And just, sometimes I just wish I didn't know I was popular because I get too curious and I want to read it. But this was just absolutely terrible for me. I can see it can work for a lot of people. I can see maybe I would have enjoyed it more if I was maybe younger or if I hadn't read as much as I have. So yeah, I just wish I had never read this and I want to forget about it. And I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Let's move on. Then I think it is now another manga night because I read probably One Piece now. And then I read Oshi No Ko Volume 4 by Saga and Mango Yukuyari. This one follows this pop star idol that was pregnant and it was kind of secret. And then really weird stuff happens. It falls a lot on like the idol industry and like kind of what's wrong with it and like the expectations of it. And then we also have kind of this mystery. But the mystery part has been pushed a lot back. And I want more in that. Then right now, I'm just like, I don't care as much. Even though I now, after reading this, settle a bit more in like realizing that the story is going to focus a lot on it. And I should be fine with that. But I want to go back to the weirdness of it. Because now it's doing something completely else. It feels like a different story. But I'm trying to settle and be like, okay, fine. I will just follow it and see how it evolves. Then read Love is a War, Volume 3. Which follows these 2 students, vice president and student council president. They both are in love with each other, but they don't want to admit it first because then the other one has power over the other. So they just are stupid and does all these things to make the other one confess. It's the most adorable thing. I love it. We also were introduced to this new depressed character in this, and I absolutely love him too. So I'm just having the greatest time, and I'm so excited to just keep reading this concept forever. In a way, reminds me of Komi Can Communicate, where both of the series are super long. And have like one certain, I was gonna say, thing that is like we're gonna use over and over for a long time. Love it. Then I read My Hero Academia Volume 35. So long into the series. I'm really nervous for something that's gonna happen soon. But obviously we have Midoriya who lives in a world where everyone has a superpower or quirk. He's one of them that did not have this, and then he comes into power and starts hero school. And now we're just fighting battles and fighting villains, and it's terrible. I hate it. I want everyone to be happy. Then I read Orange Future by Ishigo Takano. This one obviously is the continue of Orange. There's just 2 big omnibuses, right? And then apparently there was more. So this one is volume 6 because there's 5 volumes in the omnibuses. In this one follows Naho, who sends a letter back to her 16-year-old self. And she is trying to make her become friends with this other character that we find more about in the series. And then in this one, we are kind of in the future where they didn't get these letters, where like the actual future played out goes into the future where they did send the letters. So it is the future, but not the future you think, because that is the future that happened in the other one. There's kind of 2 timelines in a way. And I thought it was very adorable, very well done. I almost cried like every page. And there's like actually 1 more volume which I am going to read. So I really wonder how that is going to be. Then I read Flowers of Evil 1 complete, which is by Shuso Oshimi. This one has 3 volumes of Flowers of Evil, which is a shorter series by Shuso Oshimi, which follows this boy that steals this girl gym clothes, which is nasty. It's like, it's not supposed to be good. And then this other girl finds out and starts blackmailing him. And then you just think that basically everyone here is unhinged. It is a great time, but a creepy, where like you're sitting there like, these people, they all need therapy. But it was still a good time. Alas, and I'm very fascinated to see how the story will develop. Like, I don't even honestly know, and I'm curious. Then I ended that manga night with Look Back by Tetsuki Fujimoto, which is a standalone by the author of Chainsaw Man and Goodbye Eri and Fire Punch. And this one just followed these two high school students that both draw manga, and then they just make each other better all the time. And then this one thing happens that makes the other one look back on like all the things that could have happened and kind of draws it, because it reflects upon the fact that when you draw you can erase and start over, but in real life you can't. And it's a bit confusing where you like don't really know what was reality or not, but I think that's kind of the point. It did the same in Goodbye Eri, but I enjoyed that more than this, but I still think that this was solid. Then I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, the last book for Mel's favorites. This one is set in this world where vampires kind of rule, and we have a main character was raised by a vampire, and then she needs to enter this challenge thing to do this other thing, and then she meets this dude that is helping her, and they might or might not start to like each other. I knew it was going to be smutty. I was waiting for smut for a really long time. It wasn't even worth it. I wasn't really interested in the characters or this world. I feel like it is not necessarily the book, but the way that Carissa writes, I just makes me not care. Because I read another book by the author that I didn't care about at all. That was good in the beginning. This was like good in like the first few pages, and then I just lost all the interest in this book. I thought I would love it, but I didn't. I gave it a 3, but I feel like more 2.5 for me. I will continue, but on Kindle, and I don't know what to do about this. I honestly don't. But I thought I would love it, and I'm disappointed as much as you are. Okay, my next audio ended up being Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I put it on my TBR. I wasn't planning to read it on audio, but then I just didn't have anything else. I just thought I would listen to some of my TBR so that it would be easier to read. It was incredible audio. We have 2 narrators. We follow this couple. I don't know were they lesbians or were they bi, but they were at least in a sapphic relationship. And then one of them worked this job where she went down in like, what's it called? Underwater boats. I don't know what it is called in English right now. I only know submarine, that's the word. That's submarine. She was once gone for like months, and then she came back and was totally different. And then we're trying to like kind of be like, why does this happen? But you don't necessarily need to get the answers, but it's super weird. And the relationship is now really weird because of this. And everything is kind of weird. But it was honestly an incredible book. I really just like the eerie weirdness of it where you don't know what's going on. It was just something about the atmosphere of this book that I feel like can't be replicated. And I really just loved the flashbacks, getting to know these 2 characters, and exploring the mysteries of the oceans in a way. It was the same with Into the Dark Deep. I felt like these were similar, but just because they both are to do with the ocean, while like the stories are actually very different. Even though Into the Dark Deep also had a sapphic relationship, and this was sapphic. So honestly, that's 2 things that was very similar, but this one just like the eeriness, hominess of it, but just feeling so bizarre and distant. I just really, really enjoyed it. I gave it a strong 4 out of 5 stars. I then listened to the audiobook with Erica, where we ended up reading The Raven King. Later in the month, we also listened to Call on the Hawks. I just thought I would do them together, because they do hang on together. Raven King is the ending of the Raven cycle, which obviously follows Blue and her Raven boys, where she had this vision that if she kissed her true love, or her aunts had a vision, he would die. And then she has had this curse all her life, and then they're looking for this Raven King can fulfill this wish, and they're looking for him. And this is kind of the sequel trilogy where we follow, well, let's say, sorry, I was just reading behind the back. We follow different people, but we follow one of the characters from the Raven Boys. If you don't know who, then maybe I shouldn't say. But yeah, okay, so this, I didn't love it. I was like, this is the final book. Oh, okay, done. The second or first book ended up being my favorites, which is ironic because the first time I read the second book, I was like, ew. But now it felt like the third and fourth was just dribbling around and nothing happened. And then this was completely the same. I was like, what is this? Like, nothing is happening. It feels like a fever dream, the whole thing. I felt like nothing was happening in this whole book, and I just kind of didn't care. It's all about vibes and atmosphere, which I granted works a lot for some people, but it doesn't work for me. So I feel like I gave this 3, and I feel like I gave this 2. So I like this more, but that was because I care for some of the characters more, and here I care even less for the characters than in this one. So, meh. Then I skipped ahead in line the Apothecary Diaries that came in, and I really, really want to read it, so I just read it. This one follows Maoma, who is trained in the art of herbal medicine, and then she's forced to work in the court, and now she's kind of the poisoner tester for important people in the court. And it seems to be a lot of like political stuff going on and mysteries that she needs to solve and survive in this court. But she doesn't actually want to be there, so we should see how it evolves. There's also this dude that is hot. Is that supposed to be him? I haven't seen him in color. I never like think of people in mangas in color. But yeah, even though people absolutely love this, it's like people's favorite thing in the whole world. So far, I like it a lot, but I'm not seeing like the, oh my god, it's absolutely amazing. But we shall see how my taste develop as I continue. Very excited to continue though. Really much enjoy this. Then I started to read a lot of Spiffle books because my Spiffle vlogs are coming very soon, but after this video. But I rather follow this all there is by C.M. Kaplan. We have this dude that needs to go back to the royal family that he's a part of, and then just weird shit happens. I don't really know, actually. It was really weird. Didn't really love this one. Yeah, that's what I got about it. Then I rush read Sharp Ends by Joe Abercrombie to be part of the Catch Up Book Club live show. We'll leave a link down below. This is the short story collection in the First Life world, and I apparently had not kept up well enough to know who almost any of these characters were. Didn't really give much, didn't really care much. Yay. Then I read a Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan. This one follows these characters that find this object, a watch that does things. And the beginning was very interesting. The ending was very interesting. Everything in between was not. So that was a bit sad. But I did read it and I felt like it was better than the last one. But still. Then I read Witch Volume 3, which is obviously in the Witch series. That follows the girls that turn into witches. You know. And it was such a good time. I kind of wrapped up this part of the story. And now we're going to continue more into the territory I don't really are familiar with. Because I watched the show and here we're kind of in this part. So I wonder how I'll feel about the rest as I continue. Then I randomly listened to the Rural Diaries by Hilary Morgan. Because I didn't have anything else to listen to. And this is Hilary Morgan's memoir, which is obviously one of the main actresses known from One Tree Hill, which is one of my favorite shows. I just follow Hilary basically after One Tree Hill and what she's been doing, and like her life. And I was like, will I care? It's a lot to do with farming and getting children. And it's just like the opposite of things I would never do, like farming and getting children. But you care so much about this story and about her narrative. She narrates the book herself and it was stunning. And I like almost teared up several times because her pain becomes your pain. I thought that obviously celebrity memoirs are a bit like, if you care about the celebrity, you will kind of care about the story. But I have read a few where I felt like the writing was a lot of like jumbles and it was hard to follow. But this was just so beautiful. I think from the cover, it gives us the wrong impression of what this book is. Because I feel like since it's called The Rural Diaries, it feels like you're going to read a diary. And yes, in a way, it is kind of diary because obviously it's her life and a lot of personal details. But it was honestly a stunning book. I really, really enjoyed it. Really, really fell for it. And it was like deep and caring. And that's a lot to do with reading, how you get a lot of empathy for stories that are not like yours. This is what this story did. And I gave it a very strong 4 out of 5 stars. Then Erica and I listened to Vicious by V.E. Schwab. Finally, it's been on the list for ages. And this is obviously, I think, my favorite Schwab. It follows Victor and Eli that ends up with extraordinary powers and they want to kill each other. And it's a story set over almost 10 years where we just learn how they want to kill each other. They're all in love. That's all I got to say. And it's really fun. It follows, villains instead of superheroes that has powers. And it's really cool. And I love it. 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Hills of Heather and Bone by K.E. Andrews. And this one follows this married couple that has been married for a long time. And then the woman has bone powers so she can resurrect the dead in a way. And then people really hate this power and have been hunting her all her life. And then she's just living a life with her husband. And then they're being hunted. And I really, really like this one. I really like the writing. I really care for these people and their relationship together. And just having an established relationship in a fantasy in general. And I really like the powers. I thought the plot was okay. And in the end, I was a bit like, get on with it. But like, I really enjoyed it overall, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read this Norwegian book that was for a vlog, and also the thing that fit for my TBR game last month. And I'm hoping to post the vlog for this maybe in April. It's Iltana Vantonge, or Fire Teeth Water Tongue by New Deep. This one is by a Norwegian Vietnamese author that came to Norway when she was very, very young with her family. And it's basically about her growing up and just her whole life of how she grew up and how, I mean, the culture is very different, but a lot of pain of growing up, but also a lot of love. And then this tragedy happens when she's an adult, and then the story very much shift from being like this, looking back on childhood, to like almost every day of like the pain of something that happens. And I felt like that shift was first a bit odd, but then done very well. And I felt like it was an incredible book, written incredibly well, with so many aspects of like family and love and sorrow and so many good things. It was really well written. I really, really enjoyed it. I give it a very strong 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Last Fang of God by Ryan Kirk. This was kind of a Viking-esque thing where we have this father and his daughter going out on this journey to do something with a girl's powers because she has to, and then they go out and then we follow the journey, and I was like, it was okay, but I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I was just like, let's do this thing, and then it was over because it was very short, and I was like, okay. That's what I got. Then I finally read Hearstopper Volume 5, which has been out for ages, I know, but like, I follow my list, okay? It was so sweet. I didn't know that certain thing was gonna happen in this, but it was so sweet. The mature conversations that we had in this, the love we had in this. Gonna cry when the last volume comes out. Absolutely love it. Obviously follows Nick and Charlie that falls in love and are the cutest people in the world, okay? Then I read The Murder at Spindle Manor by Morgan Stein. This one is a murder mystery set in this house where we follow this character come there, and then there's like obviously magical stuff also happening there. It felt like a murder mystery masked as a fantasy, and I didn't personally love it. I felt like some parts I thought was really cool and enjoyable. I felt a bit like a pro-war mystery, but since I initially like, it was too many characters, etc., I had a hard time following who's doing what in this murder mystery, and maybe that's my own fault, but I was just like, eh. The ending was a bit cool, but I felt overall like maybe I would enjoy more if I reread it. I could reread it to like feel like, to see how much of it was my fault, but overall like didn't love but didn't hate. I liked it okay. Then I started my next omnibus manga, which is Fullmetal Alchemist. So I managed to read 2 of the omnibuses. That was a word. So I read 6 volumes, but obviously just 2 of them. Absolutely love it so far. The videos, vlog will come for these very, very soon. So excited to share more in-depth thoughts. But basically follow these brothers. One of them has a metal body, the other one has a metal arm and leg, and they're trying to get back their old bodies. And it's just the story of them. And it is so good so far. I really, really enjoy it. I really love the family aspect and having a home, and in general, obviously just there's this conspiracy going on, and I'm curious to see the answers for that. Very curious. Then I read Arrival Most Vial by R.K. Ashwick, which basically follows these 2 dudes that have both their own potion shops. One of them just set up, and they're rivals and hate each other, and then they need to work together on this commission, and I fall in love. It was really cute. I really enjoyed it. It had like the perfect balance of like humor and like setup that I enjoy. I did feel like there was some stuff in the characters I felt like could have been explored deeper and just written better and just managed to get out in a better way, like how some of the people were feeling and what they were going through. But still very, very solid. Very much enjoyed it. It was adorable. 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Daughter of the Beast by E.C. Greaves. This one follows this young girl that is taken away from her family to join in these beasts, and is kind of grow up with them instead of with her family. And then she has different ways than all the others around her. And I kind of just thought I would love it, but I just kind of didn't care at all, which was a bit sad because honestly I thought I would really enjoy it, but I didn't. So I ended up just feeling like not much, which was a bit sad. Then I read Saga Volume 11, which I know it came out a while ago, okay? And oh, this was so sad. I felt like this was extra sad. I don't know why. So many things is going down. I kind of forget that, like, you know, for us, we follow, like, I don't know what to say. Like, in my head, we should follow every detail of the story, but I kind of forget that the story does skip a lot as well. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but sometimes it makes it feel like the things that for us happened recently, we can pick up a volume. It's like, oh, it's been 4 years. Not actually 4 years, but I forget it. But it's been like that since the beginning. But in my head, sometimes I'm like put off by it. But it works really well for what the story does. And obviously it was incredible, and I'm very excited for the next volume. Then I decided to reread Ancillary Justice by Lucky, aka the first book in Imperial Watch. And I am now also listening to the second one. I'm doing the audiobooks because I felt like, for me, these books were better on audio for me. And I'm probably going to read through like all of the books that are out now in April. Very much enjoyed this one, even more the second time around. I felt like the story is a bit hard to grasp, but when you get it, it's like, oh my god, it is incredible. It is clever. It is everything you want in a kind of like sci-fi like this. I don't even know how to describe it, but we have a main character who used to be an ancillary that like could have many different consciousness, different places, and now she only has one body, and it's kind of after revenge. But then like most things are revealed, and like there's more going on than you think. But it's like when you read the story, it's like, what is going on right now? But then when it makes sense to you, like, shit. It reminds me a lot of Murderbot actually. So if you like either or, you enjoy the other. Then the last part of the month, I did this reading challenge, which was insane. So there's a lot of books for that. So first off, we have Sword, A Storm of Swords by George R. R. Martin, which is obviously the third book in A Song of Ice and Fire. Absolutely love this. Kind of forgot that super important events happens in like literally one episode. Not one episode, I meant one chapter. And in the series, it feels so long because it's like in one episode for that whole event. While in the book, you're like, oh, one chapter and it's over, and you're like, what? And I forgot that they put a lot of things that happens in this in season 4 actually. Because in my head, they follow seasons and books, but they don't. Oh my god, is this gonna balance? I don't know. Then I read Lark and Kasim Start a Revolution by Kasim Calendar, which follow Lark and Kasim that have been friends for a really, really long time. And they totally like each other. And then we have a main character just struggling with like losing friendships and wanting to be famous on Twitter so that they could become a published author. And then this tried to go viral, but they weren't the one that wrote it. And then they take credit for it, but then like stuff happens that you need a book to find out. It's very much about conversations and conversations about like, I was gonna say, cancelling culture and what you read online and calling people out. And I thought it had a lot of important conversations. I thought it was really well written, but it could feel a bit like, would this happen in real? But I feel like it should be these kind of conversations in real life, you know? But I did really end up enjoying it. It was really well written. We had many trans characters, amazing, and non-binary characters, and many poly characters, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was done really well for what it was doing, for what it was trying to do. And I would very much recommend. Then around 100 Lies of Lizzie Lovett by Chelsea Sedotti. This one follows our main character. It wasn't Heather. It was something to do with a tree. Something. That Lizzie Lovett is a girl that used to go to her school that disappears. And then she becomes obsessed with her disappearance. And start hanging out with her, like, boyfriend. And it is really weird. Our main character is, like, obsessed with this thing. And I thought that obviously you should care about when people disappear. You should not care. But it was just, the way it was set up makes you not trust our main character because he's not, like, reliable. But it made me uncomfortable to read in a way that I was like, I didn't really get it. I struggle finding empathy for our main character because she did so much stupid shit. But at the same time, she's like 16, so I do get that part as well. But I felt like also part of the story made me just like question if I could care for this main character. Because she really made it hard. And I guess that was what the author was trying to do. But at the same time, I was like, ew. Like, she, for example, like, her friend was having this affair with a teacher, which is obviously very bad. But she didn't even know they were in a relationship. But, like, she just said that he was a terrorist because he was not white. And I was like, what? And I'm supposed to feel empathy for this character? And I get that, like, she was supposed to not be there. But I was sitting really questioning everything she did. And it made me, like, bam. So, yeah. And then she's 17, is she? And she started to have a relationship with this 24-year-old dude. And for me, I was like, no, please. So, yeah, it didn't really hit, and the mystery was like, because I was really like, why does she care so much? But I guess that's kind of what you're supposed to do. But just because I'm supposed to do it doesn't mean that I'm like it. You know? I don't know. Don't even know what to rate this, because I don't know if I enjoyed myself, even though part of it was fascinating. So I don't know. Then I read The Demon King by Cinda Williams-Chima, which has been on TBR for literally like 400 years. And this one followed two point of views. We have Han, who used to be like the leader kind of this like, I was going to say mafia group, but that sounded a bit, street gang is maybe the better word. But now he's like cleaned up because he wanted to take care of his mother and sister. And then we follow the princess, who has had a really sheltered life and is very privileged. And now she is like going out and learning about the world in a way. And then their stories evolve from there. They have different destinies, different journeys to go on. And you can think kind of it goes in a certain direction, but the story manages to like twist those stuff you expect around. And then you say in there like, shit! Shit! Because I thought that what it did, what you think is going to happen, and not following those expectations completely, was done really, really well. And I'm now very much enjoying it. Very excited to read the next ones now. And I was a bit like skeptical if I would like it, because like it's a few years old now. But honestly, super enjoyable. Very happy. Then I read Montress Volume 8, Inferno. And in this one I actually understood what was happening. So that is a thing that has not happened in a long time. But we follow Maga, who is like a wolf, half wolf. And then she has this thing inside of her that you need to explore in the first volumes. And everything just breaks loose in hell. And it's a great time, honestly. But it can be a bit confusing if you leave too long between each volume. But now I really enjoy to see where the story will develop, and I'm curious to see what will happen next. Then I read Rebel's Queen by Daniel Bigre, which is the second book in the Lawful Time series. And what I do think that the first novella and this could have been brought into one book. I thought it was really fun to explore the things that happened in the first book in a deeper level, and all the things that's going on in this world, because now I feel like we're really stepping up and exploring this world much more now in the upcoming book as well. So I really end up liking it. I like the characters, I like the setup, but I do think like when I think about the plot, it's not like groundbreaking plots that I read, but it's still enjoyable, and I'm curious to see where it will play out. Then I read Kingdom of the Feared by Kerry Maniscalco, the final book in Kingdom of the Wicked. This turned super horny. It was not this horny before, but it turned out to be like the most horniest thing, and I'm like, where did this come from? But that was fun. But like the plot was not there. It, like, you know, the whole first book is kind of a murder mystery in a way, and this just has, I was gonna say, nothing else than horny interruption, and it was not it. You know, I was bored. I was kind of disappointed while I was trying to enjoy it for what I was trying to do, but I couldn't. So I think I gave it like 2. Then I read A Shade of Madness by Tiago Abdallah. This one is the sequel to A Touch of Light, which is set in this world where we praise life, not death. So if you die, it's really bad. And we also have like this madness thing going around that people are being consumed by, kind of like a disease. And then we have different point of views that is trying to live and change this world. We have the prince, we have a griffin rider, and we have a person that can sense other people's emotions. And I do think the story is written a bit confusingly, but that is maybe just me. But it is a lot super fun to follow. And I'm very curious to see how this whole thing will develop and up. But I feel like the way you want to immerse yourself into the story in this world, I mean, if you think about what this author has created, is very cool. So I'm very curious to see what will happen next. And I did really like this. So, yay. I then read Fans Volume 6, Redemption, which just continues the comics Fans, which comes out really rarely now. So it takes ages between each volume, and I just want a full story now. I love it a lot. It follows these boys that go to this fantasy school, and they're basically all gay, and I love it. It's so cute, and it does everything it wants to do very well. A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. I had this as one of my most anticipated releases, because I love British Kingdom a lot. I think I just don't love Viking settings in general. I just found them very repetible and a bit boring to me. So this is basically a Viking setting with a main character being married to this dude that she doesn't want to be married to. And then she marries this other dude, and then she starts to have feelings for his son. And I thought the characters were okay. The setting was boring to me. So just, since I didn't even care that much for the romance, I just couldn't really love or enjoy this as much as I wanted to, which is very disappointing. It was one of my most anticipated. I still enjoyed it, but I just felt like meh in the end, so I gave it like 3 out of 5, which is disappointing, honestly. Then I read all of Blood Red Road, or Dustlands as the series is called. This is a YA dystopian series, and I read the whole thing, and I'm very happy that I finally finished this. I thought it was fun. I really loved the first book. I always give this 5 out of 5 stars, and I read it 3 times. I finally like continued. I thought book 2 was still very interesting, and then book 3 was just not it for me. I just felt like a lot of the things we were fighting for, like how it ended, I'm like, what was the point in a way? So I gave this 5, this 4, and this 3. I still didn't hate it, and I did obviously enjoy seeing the full story, but I still felt like in the end I was like, huh. In a way, I wish almost it had been a standalone, because I feel like this could have been a standalone, but obviously the trilogies was the thing back when YA dystopians were a thing. But I still had a good time, and I'm glad I finally finished the series. For my Patreon readathon, which was happening while I was doing this challenge as well, I had bought the whole Fire Punch manga by Tatsuki Fujimoto. So because I bought it for a readathon, I want to read the whole thing for that readathon. So I forced myself to get through the whole thing. Not that I wasn't enjoying it, but it was a lot at the time. But I ended up thoroughly enjoying it. It was truly one of the weirdest mangas I have read. It's set in this world which is kind of almost frozen. People are starving, and we have this main character that regenerates, and then he's set on fire and doesn't stop burning. So it's kind of like almost like we have him as a hero, god. We have him as a god. We have him as a villain throughout this whole thing. So it has many different interesting elements that we can definitely see like in these stories. And after reading a couple of Tatsuki Fujimoto, I definitely see him reusing some of the stuff he writes about, which is what authors do. They write about what they like. He writes about movies, he writes about very weird and unhinged characters. And it became very almost like philosophical, but it was also just like, it was kind of beautiful, but at the same time super weird. We have like, I was gonna say almost incest, we have cannibalism, we have really like terrible things in it. We have many different queer characters as well that like you talk about but don't really talk about, so that was also really weird. And then we have monsters that are not really monsters, and the world ending, and it all just was such a weird experience. Parts of it, there's this narrative shift, and I'm sitting here like, what is going on right now? And then we go back to another narrative, and it was just, the whole thing was just so weird, but it was very enjoyable, but weird. It is hard-hitting. Weird is a word I would use forever, but I read the whole thing, and I usually don't read the whole manga series, in one go, but which is why this was an exception. I have no regrets reading it, but if I would recommend it, not to everyone, because I feel like a lot of people would be like, what? But I kind of like weird, so for me it worked, but it was weird. Not at all what I thought it would be, but I read it. Then I read Network Effect by Martha Wells, which is the 5th book in Murderbot, and the one we are at in my Patreon read-along. I really thought it was a different experience to read Murderbot as a full-length novel instead of a novella. I enjoyed it. I feel like this confused me more than the novellas, but alas, obviously a very enjoyable series. I love the voice of Murderbot. It's an amazing voice, and overall, obviously, super well-written series. That I feel like is possible to reread many times. Then we have Prince of Fools by Mark Lawrence. I put book 2 on my April TBR, so I thought I would get it on the way when I was doing this challenge and readathon to read this, so that I didn't need to have it on my April TBR. And it was a smart choice. But guess what is in this? That I just said I didn't love. It has Vikings, and I was like, no, not the Vikings once again. I just don't like it as a setting. I don't like the type of characters that come out of it. I don't like the tropes. Read it. I didn't care. We're going on this journey. We're going to the Viking dude's home and to save these people. And I just didn't care about anything. But I read it, and now I can read the second book in April without having to read it first. Yay! And the last book, which was actually not the last book because there was some of these mangas, but I put them together, was A Worthy Opponent by Katie Robert. At this point, I needed something very short. I ended up with smut. Basically porn, let's be honest. And this is Tinkerbell's, but she's not named Tinkerbell, but it's Tink and Hooks' story, because every book is based on Disney stuff that they end up together. And it's enjoyable and entertaining in a way that the porn is entertaining. You're sitting like, interesting. But it's basically porn. Like, it's like, I don't like you. 4 seconds later, they start like, oh my god, I'm horny. You know? Then they're like, oh my god, I could never love him. I got out of this super toxic thing. And 4 minutes later, she's in another toxic thing. And I'm like, not that it was toxic, I don't mean that, but it's just like, it doesn't make sense. And then I like 1 day later, like, I love you. And I'm like, okay. So like, in that regard, it's super ridiculous, but it's severely entertaining. And I enjoy the series overall. They are absolute lovable trash that I like to be entertained by. So far, my second one is my favorite. We shall see if the last 3 in the series can beat it. And it's a series that I just read here and there when I feel like it. And with that, we have wrapped up 76 books. I'm glad that some were series so I can wrap them together, and some I just didn't have that much to say about. But yeah, that was the books I read. Obviously a lot of graphic novels and mangas, because that's just how my reading works, and I really enjoy them and they make me happy. And that was a door that slammed really loudly, if you can hear that. And yeah, that is what I got to say today. Thank you so much for watching this wrap up. I am doing Rita now in April, so enjoy a video every day. And you should see me then tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. I was gonna say, leave a hook down below if you enjoyed this, because that was the last book I talked about. Great! If there's a hook, there's probably like a fish hook, right? I don't know. Thank you so much for watching. You see me soon.